Well, welcome to the Healthy Christian Leader Show. My name is Dwight Habermill, and I'm the host here today. And I have my guest, Reid Stairs. And Reid, you and I go a long way back. I
Yes,
think
we do.
now probably 25 years, maybe even more. I know Caleb wasn't even born, our first child, at that time when we got a chance to connect, and you've been a great friend, and I just it's always a privilege to have you here, and it's been fun to journey together in the Lord over the years.
It has.
Yeah.
It has, yeah.
Reid, you have a strong sense that Christian leaders need to move from operating in performance-based ministry to grace-based ministry. Can you explain the difference between the two ministry approaches? How does that work?
In the next 3 hours? Yeah. Yeah. I think for me, the difference between performance-based ministry and grace-based ministry is the difference between kingdom of the world and kingdom of heaven. I think it's that significant and that important. It kind of has developed in me out of my own personal journey, in that I spent years of frustration and a sense of drivenness to perform better, to do better, to get the numbers up, to get more money coming in, to have more programs for people, and internally from the congregation and from the denomination. Oftentimes that pressure, and you always meet somebody who's doing better.
Yeah.
So you always are sensing that sense of failure, and yet there's a weariness that no matter how hard you strive and how hard you work, that you don't really see the results you want to see. And I was there for a long time in that, very frustrated. I knew a lot of my colleagues and friends who were weary and feeling burned out and frustrated. And we know the statistics in ministry, how many people leave and how many people are dropping out of ministry. And I really believe a lot of it's because we are so performance-oriented, which is the world system. I mean, from the day one, we grew up in a performance-based system. You went to school, and if you studied hard and did well, you got an A. If you didn't, you got extra homework and detention or whatever. And all the way through in our jobs, in our lives, hard work and performance is rewarded. And that's just the world system. It's the way it is. But I believe that in the kingdom of heaven system, Jesus tried to upset that and turn it upside down. I think Paul addresses it in the book of Galatians when he basically talks about law and works and flesh, which is really the world system. Tell us what to do and what not to do. We'll work hard at it and strive in our own human effort, compared to grace and faith and the Spirit. Mm-hmm. I think those two levels are a reflection of the difference between performance-based living and Christianity and ministry, and grace-based ministry. I think it comes to a place, often for us, it did for me, of where I give up. I just can't do this. And there's got to be a better way, Lord. And he led me into a better understanding of grace, that grace isn't just something we get saved by. It's a way we live. It's a foundation for our ministry, for our lives, for our world outlook, and all of those areas of our life. So, yeah, for me, to me, it's the Luke 15 story, which I know you know is one of my very favorites. The difference between the elder brother who said, "I've served and I've obeyed, but I haven't had a party." He had served and obeyed, but he wasn't enjoying it. He was performance-oriented. And the younger son just said, I give up. There's nothing I can do. And let the father embrace him and hug him, and he's the one that found the party, which didn't seem very fair to the older brother. And I think that really demonstrates the difference between performance-based living and ministry and grace-based ministry. So for me, like I said, I think it's the difference between the kingdom of this world and the kingdom of heaven in many ways. Yeah.
I think there's a word the Lord gave me in the journey years ago I still can remember stepping out the front door on Ellerslie Crescent there in Cole Harbour, ready to go on the prayer walk, and I felt like the Lord said, I didn't call you to success. I didn't call you to failure. All I called you to is obedience. And it's just, we have these models that we put in our mind of what success looks like. We have these ideas of what failure looks like. We're running to achieve this, and we're trying to avoid that. And yet our eyes need to be set on Christ. Lord, what do you want me to do right now? What's next? And it's that place of keeping just in step with the Spirit and keeping focused on Christ. And therefore, I think we get a chance to be in that position of rest, because rest connects with all of what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And tell me about that for a moment. Like, how would you describe spiritual rest?
Well, I think that's a really interesting point, because I think it's part of it is a perspective. Jesus said, "Follow me," and we want to walk with Him and we want to work with Him. But there's a big difference between seeing it as a job. Here's what you need to do, and I'll evaluate you in it. And here's what I'm up to. Would you like to partner with me? I think it sounds like it's not a very big deal, but I think it's a huge difference. One is performance-based. Here's what I'm calling you to do. I'm calling you into ministry, or I'm calling you whatever. And then we feel like, okay, we've got to measure up to His standard and all of that. And it becomes very task-oriented and performance-driven. Whereas if I look at it and I say, okay, what are you up to today? What are you up to today, Jesus? And I'd like to partner with you in that. And He gives me the ability and the opportunity to partner with Him. Then it becomes something we do together out of relationship, rather than out of a sense of duty and obedience in that sense. I look at that word obedience and I see the elder brother, like, I've obeyed, but it was a grudging, it's what I have to do. I think obedience can also mean I walk in harmony with His heart and in harmony with what He's up to. And that becomes a joy. And it flows out of grace and relationship rather than out of a sense of duty and obligation. That makes sense?
Yeah, no, I think it does. And I think, spiritual rest also comes from that place of faith. That, God, I just believe that you're going to bear the fruit that needs to be born.
Yes. Yeah, and that is, for me, that is what a real definition of rest. Rest isn't like, okay, I'm taking time out now and doing nothing.
Yeah.
But rest is that I'm okay with whatever He's up to. And, the John 15, if you abide in me and I abide in you, you will bear much fruit. You will. You don't have to work hard at this. Just let my life flow through you. Let my Spirit flow through you. And it will come to pass. Like, all of a sudden, there's a rest in that.
Yes.
It's a freedom from that drivenness that it's all on my shoulders.
Yeah.
My responsibility is to abide in Him, and He will let the fruit come. The fruit will come. And there's a wonderful sense of freedom and rest in that. Yeah.
No, I agree. And it's interesting, there's only one place where that rest gets fostered and developed, and that's in His presence. There's, faith comes by hearing, and hearing through the Word of God. To think that we can develop faith apart from being in His presence and it being in His Word is just not practical.
Yeah.
And it's one thing to be there to prepare for a message. It's another thing to be there to be in His presence.
Yes, yeah. Well, I think, it reminds me of reading of John Wesley, I believe it was, that said one time, I've got so much to do today, I've got to spend 4 hours in prayer. And I think he had learned that secret of the fruitfulness of what I have to do today depends on my being present to His presence. And spending time in His presence will enable me to accomplish what He has for me today. I think that's that sense of rest. I think that's what you're talking about is getting in his presence. Then everything flows out of that.
Mm-hmm. It's so interesting because, you know, we're such interesting creatures. Like you're, what you're talking about requires a degree of, you know, structure and discipline in our lives. Yet in the same time, you can grab hold of that structure and system, make it a rule, and destroy it all.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's a fruit that God manifests in our life by being in His presence. That place of rest and that being able to enter into. I remember you used the word rhythms of grace. Rhythms of grace.
Yeah.
We've got to take a break for a minute or two here, Reid, but we're going to be back, folks, for the second part of our conversation here as we talk about what grace-based ministry looks like and how we can experience it in our journey. Well, today's conversation was fantastic, but we're not finished yet. We'll be back in the next video with the same guest with more discussion about leader health. You know the drill. Subscribe and hit that bell. Would you join us for the next episode? You can find new episodes every week in video form on the Aaron Ministry YouTube page and in audio form as the Healthy Christian Leader Show wherever you get your podcasts. Aaron Ministries is an interdenominational network of friends in ministry with a mission to foster healthy Christian leaders. Check out our website, aaronministries.com, for more resources and information on how to donate or to start a healthy Christian leader gathering in your area. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.